Curious about group reads, buddy reads, and all of these different types of social reading that goes on Booktube? Well, I'm here to tell you all about it. I'm Jack, this is Red Book Joy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would demystify social aspects of reading that go on Booktube because they bring me a lot of pleasure. And I remember when I started watching Booktube, there was a lot of jargon I didn't understand. I'm not going to go into all the jargon because there's quite a bit. And it took me a while to get to know terms like TBR, which is to be read, the books that you have yet to read, and that kind of thing, and DNF, did not finish. All this sort of stuff was new to me and it mystified me a bit. But the thing that I think is really useful is group reads and buddy reads, which are social aspects of reading that I have enriched my life immeasurably, one of the biggest pleasures of Booktube, and I'm going to talk to you about what they are. So if you've ever wanted to join one and you thought, how do I go about that? I don't understand how this works. What is it? Is it something I'd like? I'm not sure. I'm a bit scared. I don't know. So I'm going to demystify it all for you. I'm going to break it down to group reads, buddy reads, and online book clubs. Actually, I think I might start with buddy reads, then I'll go into group reads, then I'll go into online book clubs, because they're kind of all different ways of reading, but I'll start with buddy reading first. Buddy reading is when you read with one other person. So you read, I don't know, you might read with one or two people actually, but buddy reading is generally one-on-one. And what you do is you decide to read a book together and you pick a length of time that it's going to take you to read the book together. You might not even do that. You might be really casual. And I'm going to talk to you about the way I like to buddy read in a bit. But some people like to have a schedule. So they'll say this many pages per day or this many chapters per day, and they'll read it and they'll check in with each other at the end of the day or when they've done their reading. It might be, because I do reading in the morning, so I'll read my pages for my buddy read and then I'll check in that day in the morning before I start work usually. So buddy reading is just basically you're reading a book with a friend and you're not reading it and then talking about it once you've finished reading it, which is kind of like how old-fashioned traditional book clubs work. You're reading the book together, so daily check-ins usually. Now, some people don't do daily check-ins. Some people might do every other day check-in. They might do buddy read over a longer period of time of a bigger book. There are no hard and fast rules here, but a buddy read is essentially reading a book together at the same pace or keeping pace within, a chapter or two of each other so that you can just check in and give your thoughts. And I love buddy reading. Different people will have different expectations of buddy reads, but here are my favourite things about buddy reading and the things that I find make it a much more pleasurable experience for me. Other people might differ, but this is what I prefer. I like to have a manageable amount of daily reading and a daily check-in because it kind of means that you really do feel like you're reading together at a pace. So I like to do that. I am very flexible about taking days off a buddy read as well, because we all have those days where we're like, I couldn't get any reading done today, and actually I've got a load of meetings tomorrow, so I'm probably not going to pick it up until Thursday. So communicating back and forth and being flexible about your buddy read is really crucial to me. Some people prefer very scheduled, very regimented, and that's fine. It doesn't work for me. I do like a daily check-in just to say, can't read today, or I didn't manage it today. And I'm usually buddy reading with someone who reads more than one book anyway. So they're often like, that's fine, I'll pick it up in Thursday when you pick it up, or it gives people time to catch up if they have got behind. So just being casual, being understanding about the fact that people have lives and things happen. Reading is like a hobby. It shouldn't be the thing that you're stressing about. So don't make the buddy read stressful. And the other thing that I really am very keen on is if someone's reading with me and they don't like the book, then they can DNF. They can just say, I can't finish this, I'm not liking it, I don't like the characters, I hate this is awful, I really can't read anymore, I want to tear my eyes out every time I look at the book, or every time I think about picking it up I'm miserable. Don't read it. I'm very happy if I'm buddy reading with someone and they say, I'm not enjoying it, because then what do you get to do? If you're enjoying it, you get to just read at your own pace, as in like just if you want to binge 100 pages that day, you can. Those are the upsides of, those are my tips for buddy reading and making it a pleasurable experience. The downside to buddy reading is if someone makes it too regimented, if you feel compelled to read something you don't want to read and you're a bit worried about telling the other person. So it's often good to start your buddy read off by saying, hey, can we just agree that if either of us don't like the book, that we're not going to carry on reading it just for the sake of it? Though I have had a very pleasurable hate read of a book before where we've hated the book but tore it apart together, which was also quite enjoyable. Though I've only done that once with one book, Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Alice, you know which book I'm talking about. The book that I've hated more than any other book I've read, which is Flowers in the Attic by Virginia Andrews. We read that. And we were reading it with Gemma, and it turned into like a buddy read with just me and Alice because Gemma DNF'd it, which we were fine with because it was awful, but we carried on, and we were just, I think, spurred on by our loathing of this book to finish it and talk about it. So yeah, so these are my tips. Like, don't be too strict, try to be flexible, don't get upset if someone wants to DNF, and if you want to DNF, just be honest. Just say, I'm hating the book, please, I don't want to read it anymore, and just do it. People are not going to be upset about that, really. I mean, I used to worry about these things, so I'm telling you now, don't worry about those things. So that's buddy reading, and buddy reading it's just generally one-on-one. I think of buddy reading as a one-on-one situation. If you want to get onto a buddy read with someone, generally, like what we tend to do in the Booktube community is, if you see someone mention a book on their channel that they haven't read yet, that you're interested in reading, you just put it out there, and don't do it in a kind of pushy way, but just say, hey, if you ever fancy reading that together one day, I haven't read it, I've got a copy, let me know. And that's how that kind of happens. Yeah, and often, sometimes booktubers will quite openly say, hey, if anyone fancies buddy reading this with me, and they'll just open it out to anyone. So that's how buddy reads work. Group reading. So group reading, there's different ways of group reading. Generally, a group read is like, we've selected this book, and we're going to read this, and who wants to read it? And they set up a group. So the person organising the group read will announce it some way. They'll say, we're reading this, I'm reading this, or me and another booktuber or Bookstagram person have decided to read this book and we're organising it, who wants to join? And then they'll set up some way of sharing information. So it might be Discord, it might be Voxer, and however they want to share. Some people organise it via Goodreads. I've done that in the past. Goodreads is a bit clunky for organising things, but it's there, it's usable, it does work, but I prefer something where I can leave a voice note. As I said before, I think in this video, I prefer a voice note. It's easier for me, it's quicker, and I prefer listening to other people's voice notes rather than having to scroll through and read a lot of stuff. They'll organise the group read, they'll say, we're reading this. So I'll give you an example of one of my favourite group reads that I've been doing, and that is, I'm reading this chunk, and it is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, and it's a reread for me, but I've wanted to reread it for some time, and the group read has just come along at the right time for me because I've been wanting to reread this book for a long time. I tried picking it up on my own last year sometime, and I was like, not feeling it. But the group read, I am loving the group read. The group read has elevated this book to a whole other level for me because we've got people reading from all around the world, having different perspectives, different insights into the history, politics, religion, culture of India. And when we don't know something, someone goes and finds a link and sends an interesting link, because there are people who love to do a bit of research when they're reading, which is something I've really learned to do as being part of this community. Before this, I might find something interesting and research it a bit further, but the extent to some people go to, like if there's a recipe for something that's mentioned in here, they find it. They mention a song and a Bollywood film, and they find a video for it. So it's just really enriched the reading for me, plus people's perspectives and just thinking what's going on, because it's a complex story with a lot of layers, and it's just wonderful. So it's really elevated that for me. So we're reading this, and it's organised by Jolene and Lindy, whose channels I will link, and they organised it and put the call out, and we all joined, and they're organising it via Voxer, and they've been really sensible, reading 70 to 90 pages a week at our own pace, so there's no pressure, right? You can read it in one sitting or read a bit each day, and then we check in on a Saturday. And the reason I really enjoy that is because when you're part of a big group like this one, if you have no sort of check-in day or schedule when you want people to leave their thoughts by, those groups can just go ping, 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 ping constantly, constant talk, constant chatter. And for me, that can get quite stressful, and catching up on messages can be quite stressful. And some weeks I leave a message. This week particularly, I haven't had my chance to leave them. I didn't leave one last week, I was too busy. I was in London with my parents and doing some things. And then this week, I haven't had a chance yet, but I will. So they're very laid back in that you can contribute, and enough people are contributing, and I'm enjoying the experience, and I have contributed. But the best group reads, the ones where people don't feel pressured to contribute, but also feel able to without feeling self-conscious or judged in any way. And one thing I worried about before I ever joined a group or buddy read was feeling like I was going to come across as not knowing what I was talking about, or seeming like really silly, and people thinking that I don't know anything, and all those like negative self-talk, you know. Booktube community are the loveliest people you'll ever meet. You can join a buddy read or a group read with someone, and they will, if someone ever makes you feel like that, then get out of that group, because there are I've never had a group that's made me, well, actually had a bit of a group that made me feel like that on Instagram. They kind of made me feel a bit more invisible than anything else. But on Booktube, I've never had a group that haven't acknowledged my contribution and made me feel like my contribution was worthwhile. So if you're ever in a group that makes you feel like that, then you're in the wrong group. So try and get out of it and find a nicer group. I highly doubt you'll be treated that way, but if anyone's ever worried about that, don't worry, people are lovely. So those are my favourite ways to group read, is to take that reading at your own kind of pace to a schedule, but not a very hard schedule. Daily pages that, you know, people, or daily chapters, that can happen sometimes as well. People like chapters might be short, they might say let's do a chapter a day and do that. But yeah, if you can't keep up, you don't have to keep up with the schedule. You can sort of catch up at some point if it's a big enough group, when you can. So group reads have advantages in that way. And people do take books at their own pace in group reads as well. If they get a bit far behind everybody, they'll just catch up, and they'll catch up on messages or join back in when they can. And that's fine too. So my favourite ways that people run group reads are having a schedule for leaving messages so that there aren't constant messages, especially if it's a big group. Having a time, like a schedule, kind of a really easy reading schedule, and just being nice and being kind and sharing our thoughts. So yeah, that's group reading. And how's that different to online book clubs, do you think? Well, book clubs in general, I've always steered clear of book clubs my whole life because I didn't like assigned reading. But online book clubs are great because you can dip in and out of them because they're online. So people aren't like organising a venue for you guys to meet, and there's no one waiting for you. It's an online book club, so they'll do the same thing. Discussions will take place on Vox or on Discord, which I just can't get on with Discord, I'm afraid, but because my own book club has a Discord which I pop into when I can, but I just don't get Discord, and it just doesn't work for me. But I tried running a Goodreads group for that. But what we tend to do is the people that run the book club, if it's booktubers, we do it with FOMO Book Club, which is the book club I run with Alice and Giant Bookshelf, and Gemma from Gemma Books. We'll do an online live discussion of the book where people can come, and in the chat they can put questions and their thoughts, and we'll read them out and we'll share and we'll discuss it that way. And that's a really nice thing to do. And the good thing about FOMO is we give 2 months to read the book, so people can just read it completely at their own pace. And then leave their thoughts either in the Discord for when we want to talk. Alice is very good. Alice keeps up with the Discord, and we've got quite a lot of members now. So yeah, if you aren't a member of the FOMO Book Club, I'll leave a link so you can check out the sort of books that we picked. They're the books that we feel we missed out on, the books that loads of people have read that we just didn't read. So last 2 months ago, it was Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters, which is a classic and none of us had read. So yeah, we've done that. We've got Bridge to Terabithia coming up because it's middle grade March, so we picked a middle grade book for March and April. So yeah, it's a really fun community. There are some amazing online book clubs. There's the 1001 Book Club, which is run by Sandy over at Miss Reads a Lot, and she's running it this year with someone else, and I can't quite remember the other booktuber, but I'll link them I'm going to go and research it and link them. But she is running the 1001 Book Club. She's reading from the 1001 Books to Read Before You Die list, and she picks books off of that, 12 books, and reads one a month with her book club, and she does that on Discord. This year they're focusing on female authors. So yeah, so that's a lovely book club. The other great book club is the Fiction Addiction Book Club, and that is run by Ange from Ange's Book Chatter and Amy from Book Club with Amy, and I think they're doing a book every 2 months now, which is what we were doing in FOMO last year, and it worked really well, so I think they're doing that this year, and they just pick books that they want to read and people can join in with it if they want, which is the best thing about Booktube, the best thing. If someone had told me how much fun social reading would be, I'd have done it a long time ago. I would never have joined an in-person book club because I don't want to be told this is the book we're reading and blah, blah, blah. The difference between that and online book clubs is online book clubs are so loose, and so it's the same as with, like, if Alice and Gemma and I were the only ones reading the FOMO books and talking about them online, that would be fine too. But amazingly, we've got people interested in reading the books with us, and so they do. And we love that, because we were initially just going to read them together, and then we were like, let's open it up and make it a book club. And it's worked really well. That's the social side of reading on Booktube. Buddy reads, group reads, online book clubs. I hope they've been demystified for you. Lots of people who are not booktubers join in these groups as well. So if you've been a long time booktube watcher or lurker and you want to join one of these groups, if you want to join FOMO, I've got the Discord link in the description box, and if you want to join us for one of our live chats, you just watch. You don't even need to comment in the chat, you can just watch the live chat. And yeah, check out some of these events. Hopefully I've demystified it a bit for you, but if you have any further questions, just put them in the chat below and hopefully I can answer them. And yeah, if you like this video and you've never been here before, it's a little bit rambly, apologies. I did have things that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, hopefully I've demystified what I call social reading for unsociable people like me. So yeah. If you've never been here before, like I said, maybe click like, leave a comment. If you're not sure about a comment, leave me an emoji which expresses your thoughts right now, and hopefully I will see you again here soon. Bye.